Hey! Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jade Monkey. We're back here in Rust, talking about that Rust console edition for the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, next generations, and everything in between. And today we're going over Power Surge and how it's going to change the game forever, change it for the better for solo players, but for all players, solo, duo, trio, even large groups to Zergs. And why you should be pumped out of your mind for this update that's coming for Rust console edition at some point this year. Alright, so one of the first things we want to cover about Power Surge and why it's such a big deal is it's going to bring massive changes to turrets across the board. And as it stands now, and I'm sure you guys are very familiar with this as we're playing on Rust Console Edition, this is the turret we're all familiar with. This thing requires no power. It's always on, and again, it seems very small. It only costs ammo, after the crafting cost. It comes with a weapon, and all you have to do is just place it. It's awfully OP if you played for any amount of time, especially as a solo. You've gotten absolutely roasted by any Zerg that's had 50 of these things in their compounds, or even when they place them when drops come down. It is a pretty good move, but also there's a reason why PC steered away from this, and they added some more balance and gameplay loops around this, and that includes Power Surge. At least we're calling it Power Surge. It's also known as electricity, so we'll use those interchangeably. Or we will interchange those. Okay, so let's go over to the new electric turret, or the Power Surge turret, and why that's going to be such a big deal for solos, but also all players. Okay, here's a small example to show you just even the footprint already. We've got the battery, a switch, a splitter, and 3 turrets that are running currently. You can already see some of the wiring that's coming up here. Also showing some vulnerability, but again, we'll go over it here in a second. Okay, so let's power this off and let's go over the list. So already it needs power, and again, it seems very, very small, but that needing power leads into many other gameplay loops. Let's, I don't want to jump too far on the list here, but needing power, well, yes, you can have it just always running, but there are always pros and cons to each power type. So this has varying degrees of power. Solar panels themselves obviously don't get powered at night, so you need a way to store said power. So you need to start thinking about, hey, how long do I want to run this thing? Which leads us into a limited run time. You can leave them on all the time, but I promise you they're going to run out of juice, and they're going to keep doing this. On and then off, which does you no good as an attacker or defender because it pretty much cripples your turret all around. It cuts down spam, as we talked about downstairs. The fact that this has a larger footprint, just look at this and this, and also you have to protect your wiring as well. It actually cuts down on the spam, or your ability to place as many. But you can still place lots of them. It just leaves a massive footprint, which is good because people that spam the turrets will show not only a larger compound, but they look awfully juicy. I don't know about you, but every time I see one of these bad boys in game, you're like, ooh, they got something to protect. And if you see 5 of them, you're like, yeah, we should probably raid them. And think about it, as far as the ecosystem's concerned, that'll attract other large groups and kind of take a lot of that heat off solos. It's not excluding it, it can still happen, but just think about it, it's going to keep the large groups attacking large groups. So staying low key is still always the way to go, especially if you're solo. We just talked about gameplay loops, the fact that you have to maintain power, collect the power, generate the power, collect it, and then manage your power through the system here, and then make sure that the turrets are consuming an exact amount if you want to be good, so you can have a longer runtime. Think about it. If you don't want to have the turrets running all the time, the best time to run it is clearly during a raid, but also when you're offline, or have something that actually triggers it or sets it off, or people walk by, things like sensors or trip plates. Obviously, this probably wouldn't be good for base defense because all you'd have to do is jump over the trip plate, but you get the idea. You'll have to start thinking about different ways to incorporate those in your designs, and even, bases, whatever. Okay, as we just talked about, larger footprints, and the fact that, we already went over it, it really helps solos because if you can stay low key, you don't look as juicy. For the same reason why you don't put compound walls down if you're trying to stay low key, because nothing says I have money quite like windmills and walls, right? All right, so the other thing, and again, we went over this, is planning. You really have to start thinking about when you want these active and how much power can you sustain. So this truly becomes a resource, power, and you have to choose wisely where you want to spend it, just like sulfur or stone. And again, batteries equal turrets. And what do I mean by that? Well, right here, we're at the maximum output for this particular battery. Is that right? Is it the maximum output? I think it is. Yeah, it is. It is. Because the maximum output for this, I believe, is 50. So one more of these. Actually, no, we can do 5 of these total, but it's going to be awfully rough. But it's more like 4. Safely, you can run 3 off of this, but again, that's more semantics. But if you want to add more turrets, you're going to have to add another battery and think about different ways to charge that and also operate those. You see what I'm talking about, right? I want to go into the details so bad with this because it's so interesting and it's so much fun. But you get the general idea. Okay, so yeah, because if I don't cut it down, this thing's going to be like 40 minutes. Easy, right? All right, so already you can start to see that this is going to leave massive gameplay changes for everybody, but especially us solos. I mean, think about it. If you got to, well, it gives us another attack vector on a base. It gives you more ways to attack a base, especially if you're a small group or solo, because you can start to pick away where these things are actually located. And I made these different colored wires, but think about it. If you've got these sitting outside, if you follow these cables and they go right into your electrical closet, well, I got news for you. If you take this out, all of these go out. It's a cascading effect. Or if you've got a junction where all of your junctions are in one place, and I were to take out this wall right here, well, guess what? All of the turrets go down. I don't have to take out the battery. I just have to hit the splitter itself, and it's good to go. So you can already start to see different strategies for this, different ways to protect your utility closet or electrical closet. And, you know, when people get sloppy, that's nothing but gains for us. Okay, so let me see. I don't want to get too far ahead here, but yeah, so electricity is going to bring in a lot of different things. It's also going to usher in farming 2.0 at some point. Different types of trap bases. That's going to be a big deal. You can see right here, here's a trip plate. Just a simple example, but you can obviously make this a lot more sophisticated. We have Tesla coils where you can keep people stunned and also do damage. Again, farming 2.0 is going to be a massive deal. Lots of gameplay implications there, but we'll go over more of that here in the future. You can even set timers to make sure that these go off and then get turned off for power surge currently, and that's a good way to kind of psych people out to be like, hey, we're home, but you're actually not home. It's just a timer going off. And speaking of new things coming into Rust Console Edition, hopefully we got a good segue here. We do have what's coming next. We have a lot of exciting things, not only power surge, but other things as well. And I did do a video on the loose roadmap that we had earlier on. And I want to say, or was it late April? It was late April. Anyways, I have already done a video. If you'd like to watch that and see what's next, what's on the roadmap, you can go ahead and watch this video now. I will link it in the upper right-hand corner. If you want to go check that bad boy out. But also, it's worth noting, a good reason to check that out is it looks like custom servers are orbiting around power surge. What do I mean by that? It looks like there's a dependency off of custom servers to power surge as far as like consumption and memory and all that stuff. Bottom line is, I think we're going to start to see information or see these around roughly before this comes out, either during the PTB process or slightly after that. So power surge is good for lots of reasons. Okay, let's go over some specific examples, and hopefully these make sense. I've done like 20 takes of this, so hopefully this this rings true for people watching this. Okay, so let's go over some basic comparisons as far as like footprint and a basic setup. So this is powered and basic turrets, a comparison, and then talk about attacking and defending as these setups. So basic turret right here, down in the middle of the screen. You'll see this is very common currently in Rust Console Edition. We have a turret, no power, already an AK in there. It comes with a turret and just bullets. So you come across this, you just get lit up. It's always on. If it's in range, you're going to get lit up. And it's highly effective, right? Like very effective. But check this out. Here's a footprint of a powered turret. This is one of many configurations. I will go ahead and activate that bad boy. And already you can see the reason why you've got the door opening is you have something trigger this, so you're only using power when you need to. Because think about it. If this is chewing up power, if you're not close to it, there's no reason for it to be on. So if you can come up with smart ways to use your power when you need it, you can have a battery run for a very long time while you're offline. That's the idea, right? To have the turrets active and ready to go and shooting for you when people are trying to offline raid you, or when you're at work. You know, these are very realistic scenarios. I don't know about you, but it's happened to me. So yeah, you can already see a small footprint there with solar panels. You can see, and I tried to color these differently, you've got door controllers opening these garage doors, a splitter, a switch, and the battery here. So yeah, and I'll go ahead and activate this again. But you can also see there's some vulnerability to this, because if you've got this opening and closing like so, you can see that the turret turns off and then the door closes. So you've got a bit of lag time there, so you have to really start to implement this in really new and creative ways. And yes, can you just overdo it and power these all with windmills? Sure. But you know what your footprint's going to look like? It's going to look like you're guarding Fort Knox, right? So, you know, just things to consider. Definitely a different layout. And also, when you add more turrets to the configuration, it really starts to bulk it up, and you really have to start thinking about different ways you can protect that utility closet, as we were talking about before. Okay, so here's another scenario. I kind of wrapped two of these up in one. Powered raid bases, so a FOB is a very realistic scenario. And also area turrets, I think it kind of curtails into that. So let's cover the raid base or FOBs first. One of the very awesome things about this is once you accumulate power, a resource, through your base, and you're trying to do a raid, all you really have to do is take an already powered battery and place it down. As you can see, it retains its charge because we're not charging this with anything currently. And then you can plug it into your circuit here. Actually, since I did 20 takes, this was already set up from the last time. But if you look here, I just plugged this battery in here, and that turret's now covering the area as we do the raid. As you know, that's it's a big deal. It's what most people do if you're going to be smart about raiding and you're worried about a counter or something. So very realistic. Also, another scenario, especially when we get caves, think about that. You've got the ability to, with no power generation or collection, this just generates it on the fly, is a generator, or a gas power generator, low-grade generator. And this takes, you guessed it, low-grade down here. And this will run for, I can't remember the runtime of this. I want to say it's 4 hours, but don't quote me on that. But this runs just the same. You can turn this on and off via the generator itself, and you can see the turret goes on and off. And the consumption for the turrets are roughly 10 power. It can go up, varying what's in the circuit, but just know that you've got a limit on how many turrets you can put down, and then you have to think about different ways to power additional turrets if you need to. But let's be honest, we don't typically do more than 1 or 3 is kind of a lot for like a raid. But that curtails into the next piece here. If you have area turrets around your base, do you want to anchor them into the main utility closet, or do you want to have standalone areas, or do you want to have battery backup? So if somehow the main base gets raided, they knock out the main power, these can turn on the outside and then keep these turrets active during one of those raids. As you know, that's supremely important, right? I mean, sometimes that can be the difference between winning and losing a raid or defending. So, you know, things to think about. The whole idea with this is to kind of get your brains going creatively to be like, how do we want to solve these problems? Because you're going to sign in with Power Surge on PTB or main branch and go, wow, some of the stuff we used to do is definitely going to be a problem. How do we fix it ASAP? So it's good to think about it now because there's definitely a bit of a learning curve with this, but it's definitely worth the payout. And I think the gameplay loops it adds are very, very fun. Okay, so let's go over the last piece here. Hopefully this all makes sense for you. Is generation of power and storage. And we'll go over a more in-depth piece on this later, but I just want to get people kind of going on this as, you know, now we got official word that this bad boy is coming. We just don't know exactly when yet. Okay, so the first thing is power generation. We have 3 different actual types. There's technically a 4th, but power generation includes, for the standard player, a windmill, which has varying degrees of wind, but it does run through the night, so pros and cons. You've got the power generator, and again, the con is it will run out of gasoline at some point, so you need to maintain it, and it has a finite amount of runtime. And the solar panel, which is good and consistent during the day if it's facing the right direction, but also not operating at nighttime. So if you think about it and you use these all together, you can actually keep a lot of juice on tap when you need to. And the 4th kind is more for creative mode or admin spawning them in, is the, I think this is just called a power generator. It essentially cranks out 100 power units off of each node, no matter what. You don't have to store anything. It's constant power. So don't rely on this for actual official gameplay. But a little fun fact, if you go to the oil rig, small oil rig now on Rust Console Edition, and go up to the top by the helicopter pad, you can see one of these bad boys, and they're actively using some of the power surge elements. And I think one of the timers are glitched. They're supposed to be inside of here. You can see it floating outside, and you can actually trip the switch, and you can see some of the wiring actually move back up into the oil rig itself. So that's very exciting to see that. And also, fun fact, let me zip up here real quick now that I'm thinking about it. If you see, if you see up here at the oil rig, you see this little guy? This is an RF broadcast unit, and it will broadcast to a pager, letting you know when somebody activates the Chinook event or the crate event on the oil rig. So if you type down that frequency that's above the desk, your pager will go off when somebody's activating it. So all power surge stuff, and very exciting. Okay, so storage. 3 different types. I went on a bit of a rant. I told you I can go on and on about this. It's just so exciting. It's so much fun, and I've been waiting for this for so long, and I'm just super pumped that we've got like a general idea when this is coming. But anyways, power to collect and store. We have 3 different types. Consider them small, medium, and large. I guess they are called that, right? Small battery having 150 rust watt minutes. I know that'll make sense later, but just know its maximum output is 10 power units. The medium battery is maximum output 50 units. That's probably the most important. Capacity, again, 9,000 rust watt minutes. And again, based off of its capacity, there's different ways you can charge this, and then after that it becomes a waste. We'll go into that more later. And then the large battery, which Zergs should pay special attention to because you'll be using this a lot for the turrets. This one has a maximum output of 100, and the maximum capacity, or I should say the capacity, is 24,000 rust watt minutes. And so again, if you use all of these in a smart way together, and even the collection or storage, you can really come up with a strong solution for any player, but especially solos. But think about it. These become different ways you can attack the base. I mean, if you start to take out windmills at the beginning of the wipe or whatever, and you're going to raid them later on in the evening, and you know they're not going to be on, I mean, this is a good way to kind of tap out the batteries inside of the base, right? Start taking these out long range. Just saying, that's the thing. All right, so let's go ahead and look to the future. And again, why electricity is so important for everyone. Electricity is a dependency, or I should say other updates are a dependency to electricity. What do I mean by that? The farming 2.0 we went over. It's going to bring in the cloning and everything else, different types of water pumps, even powering this water pump. This is a desalinator, or, I'm sorry, a water purifier, but it's a desalinator. Let's be real. Different ways to pump things will take power. It's so much fun. That gameplay loop alone is a blast. It's going to change the way you do combat because you can't plant pumpkins everywhere. But also it brings in the mixing table, so berries and basically potions and different buffs and debuffs. Well, I don't think there's any debuffs. There's only buffs. Really cool way for not only combat but for farming. It has a lot of implications. You can craft gunpowder on here. Also fantastic. So it affects everybody. But look at this. Also, the dependency for vehicles is going to be electricity. So you can't operate this without electricity. So just saying, this is such a big piece of everything. And it's going to bring in so many other things after it. It's very exciting. And rest assured, in the future, we're going to let you know as soon as this stuff does hit, as soon as we have official dates. And also, we'll be hitting you up with all kinds of cool builds and different guides and stuff for this, because it is a blast. We've been doing it on PC since it came out. And again, we're foaming at the mouth for this to come out for Rust Console Edition. Mad excited for this. And again, if you found this all useful and helpful, be sure to drop a like. It really does help out tremendously. And if you're really into it and you'd like to watch this again, consider dropping that subscribe and turning on that notification bell to all. And hey, if you're watching this and you see the little profile picture from my channel with a red circle and it says live, stop by and be like, what's up, electricity for life? And then I'll know you watched this video. And yeah, okay, well, we've gone on long enough. Let's bounce out of here, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Love you. Bye. Oots, oots, oots.